Hi, this is Andrzej. Literally 3 minutes ago, I got off this motorcycle. It's still hot. Am I hot? Well, I'm not hot. Actually, I'm incredibly super relaxed and a bit cold because we've been riding around Munich, a bit in the mountains, a bit wet, a bit chilly, but still, it's been very, very pleasant. That's because this motorcycle totally relaxes us. You know, it's kind of like how kids fall asleep to the sound of a tractor or the pulsing noises. But let's start from the beginning. Where did this motorcycle come from? It came about because from time to time people at BMW get this idea, hey, maybe we shouldn't, it's not that we're boring. Maybe we should step out of our box, so to speak. The first time they really stepped out of that box was with the R19 model. And that was quite a breakthrough. There's a person standing over there, I won't point at him, but there's someone standing there with his back to us. Well, you can't see him now, but he's the one responsible for the R19 model. And after it turned out to be such a success, they said, all right, you be the leader of the R18 project as well. His name is Roland. I took a picture somewhere. Roland, hi, here you go. I'm just saying that you are the father of the R90 and now the father of the R18. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Thank you very much for successfully getting the impressive BMW vehicle out of its original packaging, you know what I mean?
I think the starting point was back in 2008. We had a styling model called the Lowrider, and we showed it to people at the ICMA fair. And the feedback from people was so positive that they gave us the green light to go in this direction. Then, based on this styling model, we actually started developing the R9T. And when we brought the R9T to the market, as you probably know, it was a big success. So for us, it was a sign to continue in this direction. And then we realized, of course, we have a long history, so why not make use of it? So we went back into our archives and took a look in our classics department. And then we saw these beautiful motorcycles from the past. And then we thought it would be a cool idea to bring this beautiful style and these really cool looking motorcycles into today's world. And with the R90, we discovered that people love the idea that BMW can be emotional, not just functional. So we said, okay, let's combine these two worlds to create a truly good functional motorcycle with lots of character, heart and soul, and of course, one that looks great.
Yeah.
This is the story that we want to continue into the future as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Roland just said that it all started in 2008 when during the ICMA trade show they presented a concept model, the Lowrider, their concept motorcycle, and suddenly it turned out that people were interested in something stylistically interesting from BMW. And at that moment the decision was made to create the R9T series, and it turned out to be a huge success. And suddenly the brand realized, wow, we actually have such a rich history. Dozens of historic models starting from the R7 prototype, which I was admiring yesterday, but also models like the R5, R51. It's really a whole cross-section of historic motorcycles. And why really weren't they taking advantage of this instead of just making functional, decent motorcycles all the time? And when they made the R90, it turned out that it really works and that they want to keep going in this direction. And now we're standing in front of this motorcycle. In my opinion, they really went all out. I even talked to Timo, who's responsible for marketing, and I have this feeling that the engineers and designers created a model of this motorcycle, put it in front of, I don't know, some group of decision makers, and everyone looked at it and said, okay, cool, cool. Now let's make it 25% bigger on every side. When you look at this motorcycle, it's an absolute monster. 1800 cubic centimeters of displacement from two boxer type cylinders. This engine is simply a work of art. I really like how it looks when you compare it, sits on a shelf right next to the very first boxer engine, which is literally this tiny, so small. And now this motorcycle weighs 350 kilos. When you get on it, you feel a bit intimidated. But you know what? As is the case with every big cruiser, the moment the wheels start rolling, that weight suddenly disappears. Because these motorcycles are usually so well balanced, and this one is no exception. What I like is that despite its weight and the fact that apparently engineering wasn't the top priority here, in other words, The designers had the first and final say on this project, and the engineers had to adapt, not the other way around, as is usually the case. Despite that, they managed to create a motorcycle that is really stable in corners. We don't get that feeling, which you often have with heavy cruisers, where you enter a corner quickly and it feels like the steering head is wobbling or the front suspension is unstable. Here, everything is just like in a real BMW, meaning it's very stable and very, very precise. Although the first impression was kind of funny because we were riding in the rain at the very beginning and we were sneaking into those corners, just to be careful about the grip. And then I felt that, hey, it doesn't behave quite like a BMW because at those very low speeds, when we're riding really carefully, you can feel that the engine is kind of in control of us. It moves like that when you twist the throttle. It's incredible when you start up this motorcycle. The whole thing, the entire bike moves when you give it gas. It just moves all over. It's very exciting, but at those really low speeds, when we're leaning it over very slowly, you can feel that it's kind of in charge. That's why we have to take control. And the moment we start treating this motorcycle like any other, it starts to yield to us. An incredible motorcycle. Don't look for performance in it, even though it has 158 Newton meters. But I'll talk about that. It has three riding modes. One of them is rain. This one reduces the power and torque. And then there's rock and roll. Roll is a gentle throttle response, so gentle in fact that even for me it's a bit too soft because you really have to twist the throttle a lot before the motorcycle starts moving. So I spent the whole day riding in rock mode, and with rock, as soon as you give it a bit of gas, the engine responds immediately. What's important is that it's really responsive. There's the Triumph Rocket motorcycle, which has a lot more Newton meters on paper, but those Newton meters come in at higher revs. Whereas here, the torque about 150 Newton meters, I think, kicks in below 2000 RPM. So when you give it throttle, this motorcycle pulls immediately, right away. When it comes to pure performance, if you open up the throttle all the way, it's still going to be comparable to a Harley, for example, with the Milwaukee 8 117 cubic inch engine. These motorcycles aren't meant to be faster. It'll accelerate to 180 without any problem, but the throttle response is top notch. And what gave me the most pleasure today was shifting into 5th or 6th gear and just lazily rolling on the throttle. I'd gently give it some gas, it would pick up speed, then I'd close the throttle and it would just coast along quietly, gracefully, simply carried by its own momentum. And what's interesting, speaking of quietly and gracefully, is that at low revs, the sound is very similar to a big V-twin, like on a Harley, if you want to imagine it. But only when you rev it up does that characteristic boxer sound come out. The brakes are incredible. This is a motorcycle that weighs 350 kilos. All day, I only use one finger to slow down. The brakes are linked. When you brake with the front, the rear brakes as well. What surprises me is that there's a brake and that there's a reverse gear. Here, you move this lever. At this point, you press the starter, and this motorcycle has an electric reverse. A lot of things today were a surprise because, this motorcycle is kind of like that. I've ridden various large cruisers before, but this is the first big cruiser from BMW. And what stuck with me most today is just how spectacular and impressive this machine is. It's not even about the fact that it's a huge motorcycle, a huge boxer. It's about this area here, this region. It's just this black with the chrome with those classic pinstripes. You just ride this motorcycle and you feel it. It's almost a bit dark. It's almost a bit intimidating. The elegance is just overwhelming. It's like riding a Cadillac from the 50s. It's just so foreign because nowadays, well, we have Harley, we have Indian, but those are what we're used to. But this is just something new. And the fact that, for example, there were no compromises here at all, it's so heavy that it's almost unbelievable. This is a solid piece of metal. Everything here is very rugged. I think this motorcycle could last 100 years, and it probably will. The only thing that kind of puts me off about the whole project is just a tiny flaw, but there has to be one here, simply the switches. And here I talked with Roland and with several other gentlemen, like, how could you make such a refined motorcycle, such a gem, such an impressive piece of machinery, and then just put these plastic switches on it like on any other BMW? And they told me, well, listen, there are times when you have to give in to the accountants, and developing new switches would have cost a lot more money. And that was the moment when we simply gave in. Well, I know they definitely tried, because what I notice is that there are more and more people at BMW who are really, so to speak, allowed to pursue their passions. Because it's interesting that whenever I'm at a BMW presentation, even for models like the BMW GS, which are, super refined motorcycles, it turns out that the people there, the engineers, testers, everyone are truly passionate motorcyclists. It's just that over all these years, they were basically held back by company policy or by the fact that the motorcycles just had to be proper, proper, proper. And now, when this team has finally been let loose, this is what we get. Even this fact, this exposed camshaft, it's just amazing that they actually did it. And exhaust in the so-called fishtail shape, as they say in American, which directly references the R7, a ton of little touches like that. I know that Smoku was critical when it came to the production version of this motorcycle because he was really impressed by the prototype. But we've already seen some customized versions here, and it's all open now. It's all open, do whatever you want. I've also seen another version of this motorcycle which will be available soon. It's also very interesting. I signed a paper saying I can't say anything about it, so it's really a very intriguing thing. Very, very original. I'll come back to this again. I rode all day just looking at that dashboard, those gauges, the handlebars, the tank. I also joked a bit that if my grandmother were alive, I probably wouldn't show her this motorcycle because damn, it's like Hugo Boss designed it, if you know what I mean. I think that's it. These are just my immediate impressions. I didn't really have time to think much about this motorcycle. In a moment, I'll go talk to the engineers, and I've met a really nice gentleman here. I hope he'll show me around the area because BMW Classic, where we are, is a unique place, definitely worth visiting. I hope he'll give me a bit more of a tour behind the scenes soon. So yeah, even if this kind of equipment isn't really my thing, it's still fun to take it for a spin. I recommend that you at least touch it and spend a moment with it because it's an interesting experience. Take care, greetings. As always, you'll find more in the magazine.